In this video, I'll show you exactly how to set up Git in both Visual Studio and GitHub Desktop. Whether you're working solo or with a team, this setup will make managing your code a breeze.
Hi everyone, welcome to Coding with Bully, where I'm sharing my journey learning about C# and the .NET Stack to build some cool web apps or maybe some mobile apps too. Whether you're just starting or curious about coding, I hope you find this video helpful. Alright, let's jump right in.
So what is Git in simple English? Git is a tool that helps you keep track of all the changes you make to your files, especially when you're writing code. Think of it like a super smart save button for your projects. Whenever you make a change, you could save a version of your work with a note about what you changed. That way, if something goes wrong later, you could go back to an older version easily, kind of like an undo button for your whole project. Git also helps you work with other people. If you're on a team, everyone can work on the project at the same time, and Git makes sure all the changes get combined smoothly without messing anything up. So in short, Git keeps track of your work, lets you go back to earlier versions if needed, and helps you work with others without getting confused about who changed what. So what's the difference between Git in Visual Studio and GitHub Desktop? Let's take a look at Git in Visual Studio first. It's built right into the editor. When you see Git in Visual Studio, you're managing your code directly inside the same place where you write it. You can make changes, commit them, and push them to GitHub without ever leaving Visual Studio. It's all in one place. Next, it's integrated with coding. Visual Studio lets you use Git while you're coding. So if you decide to add a new feature or fix a bug, you can do all the version control right there. It's very convenient for developers who want to stay focused. And the next one is it has more advanced features. Git in Visual Studio also provides more advanced features like merging, branching, and seeing a detailed history, all while staying connected to your code. It's ideal if you want to handle everything from coding to version control in one spot. So how to set up Git in Visual Studio? If you're using Visual Studio, you might notice that Git is already included and ready to use, which makes things super convenient. In many cases, it's bundled with the installation, so you won't need to set it up separately. If for some reason you don't see the Git menu in your Visual Studio, you could check under Tools, get Tools and Features, and make sure Git for Windows or any related components are selected in the installation options. Once that's confirmed, you're good to go. Alright, let's set up a Backbone ASP.NET project locally to push to our GitHub repository. First, open Visual Studio and create a new project. Select ASP.NET Core Web App Razor Pages and click Next. Now edit your project name to whatever you like here. Then click the three little dots to choose the save location. This is where I'll set up the file structure for my projects. I am saving my files in the C drive, but you guys could save yours wherever works best for you. For this project, I am saving my web app files under the web apps folder I just created. Once done, click the create button at the bottom right, and here are the web project files, as you could see to the right panel right here. Okay guys, I am gonna make a few changes to the web template. Let's start by opening the layout.cs HTML file, which is located under the pages and shared folders. First, I'll tweak the footer for a little bit, and then I'll update the header as well. There's nothing much here to see. I just want the name of my web application to have a little space there in between each word, and I like to add copyright wording in front of the copyright symbol. That's a copyright symbol right there. And then I don't want to add any links in my footer, so I'm gonna remove that and add all rights reserved right here instead. I am gonna come back here later on to fix the spacing between each word of of the name of the web application. So the next one, let's change something here for a little bit for the index file. Done. Once that's done, save the project and select HTTP to run the project files. Once that's done, just save the project by click on the disk icon on the top, or just press Ctrl S if you are using the Windows. So we're gonna select HTTP to run the web project on IIS Express. Now the reason we're using HTTP without the S is because I am using Google Chrome as my default browser. If I haven't configured the HTTPS protocol yet, it'll throw an error. We are not covering that in this tutorial yet, but don't worry, we'll get to it in the future. Alright, the web project is running perfectly now. We've got something to push to our GitHub repository. Let's keep going. Next, since I've already created my project folder locally, I haven't installed or initialized Git in it yet. So let's take care of that now. Let's start by installing Git on our computer. Head over to git-scm.com, which is the official Git homepage. Once you're there, click on Downloads. Git is available for many operating systems, but since my computer is running Windows, I'll click on Download for Windows right here. Next, I am gonna click on 64-bit Git for Windows setup, and you guys need to know what operating system your computer is running on to pick the right choice on this page. Once you get the Git file on your local computer, which is located in the Downloads folder, in my case, double-click the file to start the installation. Run the installer and follow the default settings. You can also tweak them if needed, of course, but the default settings are fine for most use cases. If you want to keep only the default settings, just keep clicking the next button until you see the install button, and then just click it to start. Once it's complete, you'll see the Git setup wizard window here. I'm going to uncheck the view release nodes because I don't want to review the nodes, and then just click the finish button to close out the wizard. So how to tell if Git is on your computer? Let's open up a command prompt or terminal, type git space -- version and press enter. As you could see here, you could see Git version 2.47.1.windows.1. So that means I have Git on my system. Alright, let's get started by initializing Git in your local folder. Open the folder where your project files are located and copy the folder path. Then launch the command prompt as an administrator. Next, in the command prompt, type cd followed by a space, and then paste your project folder path, and then press enter. You'll now see that you've navigated to your project folder, also known as your working directory. Next, type git init and press enter. This command will create an empty Git repository in your project folder. You'll notice a hidden .git folder has been added. This is your new Git repository. Next, I shouldn't add the Visual Studio web project files to staging just yet because I completely forgot something very important. Got errors? Don't panic. Take a deep breath. Remember, every error is just a problem waiting to be solved. And you know what? You will get some type of errors all the time in the coding world. So, why you shouldn't add the project files for staging right away for the fresh project is because the error I am having is caused by file permission issues. Git doesn't have the necessary permissions to access or stage some certain files in the Visual Studio folder or cache files. These files are typically not meant to be included in version control. Files like .vs or Visual Studio Cache are generated dynamically and are unnecessary for version control. Including these files can lead to errors and bloat your repository. So in order to fix this error, we just need to create a file that is called .gitignore to include all the Visual Studio Cache files. Open Notepad or Notepad++. In the editor, list the file names you want to exclude from version control. Here are the file names. Then, next, click the File menu on the top of the editor and select Save As. By default, it will save as a regular text file, but in the file name field, type .gitignore without adding any file extension at the end. And then save the file in the root folder of your project. This is where the empty Git repository was initialized or set up earlier. As you could see here, the .gitignore file has been added to my project folder. Next, let's run a Git command to stage the project files. Type git add dot and press enter. Great, it's working now. All the files are staged. The next step is to commit the files. Type the following command. As you could see from the screen right here, it's git commit -m and then followed by your commit message here. Make sure to replace your commit message here with a message that describes the changes and enclose it in double quotes. Then press enter to complete the commit. Okay, now we enter another issue. I need to set up the author identity. Git just informed me about it. If you see this error, don't worry. You could fix it by running following Git commands to configure your name and email. Just use your full name for the username, user.name, and then just use the email address associated with your GitHub account in the Git command that says user.email. After running these commands, Git will recognize your identity for commits. So as you could see from the screen here, if you have this error, just run the following Git commands to fix it. Don't forget to run another Git command to check and verify your identity by using git config --global --list. You should be able to see your name and email address you just entered previously. So here's how to publish your code to your GitHub repository in Visual Studio. Alright, let's open a project you have in Visual Studio. Click on Git at the top of the page and then select Push to Git Service. The Create a Git repository window will pop up. Make sure to select GitHub from the left panel. Check the local path field to ensure it links to your existing local Git repository. You could leave the license templates field as none. Log into your GitHub account using the account field. You'll see the owner of the account appear in the next field. The repository field should display the same name as your local repository. If you already have a repository with the same name on your GitHub account, it will tell you that you can't create a repository with a duplicate name. You could enter whatever you want here in the description field. Make sure it's very meaningful and it's very easy to understand what it is all about too. Next, set the visibility of your project. I'll select mine to be public. Once everything looks good, click the push button. Next, in the right panel for the Git changes in your local repository, enter a commit message to commit staged files to the master branch. Once you enter a message, click the Commit Staged button. After that, you'll see the commit message right here. It's created locally now. And currently, you are in the master branch, which is the default branch Git creates for you when you set up your Git. From over here, you can filter all the local branches you may have, or just click right here to view all the commits. You could take a look at right here at the middle section. When you hover over that little dot guy, you'll see a lot of information about your commits. All right, next, we're gonna commit these files to our remote repository at GitHub. Click on the Git menu at the top of the page or editor, and then click Push. Alright, next, let's log into your GitHub account. Let's check out the GitHub account to verify if your code is in your repository. In my case, here's my account. It looks like I have my new repository as dipping sauces as I wanted. And let's click on the link dipping sauces right there. And here they are. These are all my files that I pushed to the GitHub account. That's exactly the file structure that I decided before I created them. And all the files are there. Everything looks all good. By the way, I've compiled some of the most useful Git commands for you. If you're interested, I've added the link in the description box below. Just enter your name and email. Confirm your subscription to allow me to send you the file to your email for free. So what's GitHub Desktop? It's a separate application for Git management. The GitHub Desktop is a simple and separate app that helps you manage your code changes without diving into an IDE like Visual Studio. It's a great tool if you prefer to handle version control separately from writing the code itself, and it's also beginner friendly. GitHub Desktop is more visual and beginner friendly. It gives you easy buttons and visuals to manage your repository, making it great if you're just getting started with Git or want a clear view of your changes. Plus, it's ideal for collaboration. If you're working with multiple people, GitHub Desktop can be a good choice because it's very straightforward to see what others have worked on, pull their changes, and put yours. So Git in Visual Studio is integrated into your coding environment. Perfect for those who want to code and manage Git all in one place. But at the same time, GitHub Desktop is a separate user-friendly app focused on Git management, ideal for beginners or people who like to keep code management and editing separate. So both tools do similar things. They help you use Git to save your work and collaborate, but it just depends on whether you want everything in one coding space like in Visual Studio or prefer a simpler visual app like GitHub Desktop. So in my past experience, we often used both Git in Visual Studio and GitHub Desktop. Visual Studio was our go-to when working on projects individually because it's integrated and convenient for solo tasks. But when it came to collaborating with teammates, especially to resolve issues with merging branches, GitHub Desktop made teamwork smoother. Switching between the two tools helped us stay efficient and flexible depending on the situation. So we kind of need both of them. Let's talk about how to set up GitHub Desktop app real quick. Search the internet for download GitHub Desktop. You should be able to find this page on GitHub. The web address is desktop.github.com. Click Download for Windows 64-bit. If your machine runs Windows, if not, they also have a Mac download link at the bottom right. Once you get the file in your local downloads folder, double-click it to start the installation. When you get to this pop-up window, sign into your GitHub account. If you have the Enterprise GitHub, just use the button down below. You'll see the repositories on your GitHub account next. So I am adding my existing repository from my local drive next. I got this error message because my GitHub and desktop account credentials are quite different. So all you have to do is just click the link that says add an exception for this directory right here, and then click add repository. Next, you'll see your project files inside the GitHub Desktop app. So you're not seeing any changes in my GitHub Desktop because this is a new project for me and I don't have any team members to collaborate with yet. So there's not much to show you here. Now that you've got Git set up, if you haven't already, be sure to check out my video on setting up a local IIS web server. It's the perfect next step. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you and can't wait to read your thoughts. Have an amazing day wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!